And welcome to Technology Tap. I'm Professor J. Rod. In this episode, IBM and the age of the punch card. Let's tap in. All right, welcome back to Technology Tap. I'm your host, Professor J. Rod. Today, we're traveling back more than a century to the time when information didn't live on silicon chips or magnetic discs, but on paper cards with holes punched through them. This, my friend, is the story of IBM and the punch card system. I'll tell of smartness, industry, and the birth of data processing. Let's start in the 19th century with the U.S. Census of 1880. Counting 50 million Americans by hand took nearly 8 years. By the time the results were published, the data was already outdated. The government needed a faster way, and a German-American inventor named Hermann Hollerith had an idea. Hollerith noticed that train conductors punched tickets in different positions to record passengers' characteristics. Male, female, adult, child. What if, he thought, each hole on a card could represent a data point? By creating electrical contacts through these holes, a machine can count and sort automatically. By 1889, Hollerith tabulating machine debuted, a hand-cranking marvel with spring-loaded pins, mercury-filled cups, and mechanical counters. Each card can hold up to 80 fields of information, a human life encoded in cardboard. The 1890 census used Hollerith's invention. It cut processing time from 8 years to just 1.5. The United States has entered the era of mechanized information. The rise of IBM. Hollerith's success attracted investors. In 1896, he founded the Tabulation Machine Company. His system soon powered insurance firms, railroads, and utilities. But competition grew. By 1911, financier Charles Flint merged Hollerith's company with 3 others, the International Time Recording Company, Computing Scales Company, and Bunding Manufacturing. Together, they became the Computing Tabulating Recording Company, or CTR. CTR built clocks, meat scales, and tabulators, but when Thomas J. Watson Sr. became general manager in 1914, he saw a bigger vision. Watson came from NCR, the National Cash Register Company, and brought a salesman's discipline. He believed in slogans, discipline, and pride. His motto, think. And the interesting part about NCR, which is the early POS system, right, National Cash Registers, a lot of their salesmen that came out in the 1890s and the 1900s and 1910s, if you look in 30s, 40s, and 50s of Fortune 500 executives, a lot of them came from NCR. NCR was like a big training ground for this next wave of generation of executives, and they all came from NCR. One day, maybe I'll do a deep dive on NCR, but their salesmen were fantastic back in the day. Watson unified the firm's culture, expanded international sales, and focused on the tabulating business. By 1924, he renamed CTR to International Business Machines, IBM. IBM just sold not just machines, but a system. The punch cards, the sorters, the tabulators, the training, and the service contracts. Hollerith's 45-column cards grew to IBM's famous 80-column format, each card containing 80 characters, enough to store one line of computer code decades later. Inside the machine. The punch card ecosystem revolved around 3 main devices: the key puncher, the sorter, and the tabulator. The key punch let operators type data onto cards. Each keystroke punched a rectangular hole in one of the 80 columns. The sorter could rapidly arrange thousands of cards according to hole patterns, the earliest form of machine sorting, and the tabulator read cards electronically and printed totals or reports. By the 1930s, large organizations like the Social Security, Western Unions, and railroads ran on punch cards. Every paycheck, utility bill, and bank deposit flowed through IBM's machine. And IBM's dominance wasn't only technological, it was organizational. Watson seniors emphasized loyalty and stability. The company offered benefits, uniform, and lifetime employment. The IBM family was born. But as the world changed, IBM faced a moral crossroads. The punch card and World War II. By the late 1930s, IBM's reach spanned the globe. Subsidiaries exist in dozens of countries, including Germany. IBM Germany, known as Deutmag, provide tabulating equipment to the Nazi government. Those same machines were used for census operations and logistics that tragically facilitated persecution during the Holocaust. Historians like Edwin Black wrote, IBM and the Holocaust later examined how corporate technology intertwined with state bureaucracy. At the same time, IBM's U.S. operations contributed to the Allied efforts, building punch card systems for logistics, cryptanalysis, and early bomb treachery calculations. It is a haunting paradox. The same technology empowering both oppression and liberation. After the war, IBM reflected on its global role. Watson's senior son, Thomas Watson Jr., would soon transform IBM into a computing company. From punch cards to computers. The punch card method continued well into the 1950s. The first computer, like the IBM 701 and the UNIVAC, still used punch cards for input and output. Programmers literally coded in holes. Each card contained one line of code. A program could require thousands. Drop your deck and your logic collapsed into chaos, which is why programmers carried rubber bands and anxiety in equal measures. By the 1960s, IBM System 360 computers began to shift data onto magnetic tape and disk. Yet, even then, the 80-column format lived on. The Fortran language preserved the first 5 columns for statement numbers, a legacy of punch card layout. The punch card mindset, structured data, fixed fields, and batching processes became the DNA of computing. Even today's database echoes those restraints. The legacy of IBM and the punch card. Let's step back and reflect. Punch cards weren't just a technology, they were a culture. They trained generations to think in data terms. IBM machines taught the world to quantify, sort, and predict. They shaped the rise of management science, operational research, and information systems. University taught machine accounting decades before computer science became a discipline. In the developing world, IBM tabulators helped government organize national statistics. In business, they paved the way for payroll automation, inventory control, and decision support. Culturally, the punch card became a symbol of the bureaucracy of order and sometimes of alienation. Writers satirized it. In 1964, a student protest sign read, "Do not fold, spindle, or mutate. I am a human being." IBM transition from punch card machines to electronic computers mirrored humanity's shift from the industrial age to the information age. When Watson Jr. approved the System 360, he bet the entire company and won. By the 1970s, IBM dominance defined corporate computing, but the ghost of the punch card lingered in every data field, every fixed width record, every spreadsheet cell. Finally, imagine the clutter of thousands of tabulators echoing through the office halls, the rhythm of computation before silence became speed. Those holes represent people, census takers, soldiers, students, taxpayers, all reduced to patterns that machine could read. And in doing so, IBM taught the world how to think like a computer before computers even existed. So next time you swipe a card, scan a barcode, or upload a spreadsheet, remember, it all began with a humble piece of cardboard and a spark of human curiosity. And that was IBM. Let's focus on the $5 billion bet on the System 360. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come with the biggest risk, and sometimes the entire future of an industry hangs on a single decision. Today, we explore one of the most dramatic business gambles ever made when IBM, under Thomas J. Watson Jr., risked everything to build a new line of computer that no one was sure would work. This is the story of the IBM 360, the bold bet that nearly bankrupted the company but ultimately changed the world. A company at the crossroads. It is the early 60s. IBM is already a giant, global, profitable, dominant. Its mainframe computers runs banks, insurance companies, and government agencies. But there's a problem. Every IBM computer line is different. Different hardware, different software, different peripherals. If your business bought one model and later needed more power, you couldn't simply upgrade. You had to replace everything. Hardware, program, training, workflow. Customers were frustrated, competitors were growing. The world needed something new. Inside IBM, one man understood this better than anyone. Thomas J. Watson Jr., the son of IBM's legendary founder. Watson Jr. wasn't a quiet caretaker of his father's empire. He was a pilot, a war veteran, a visionary, and he believed IBM needed to burn its own ships before somebody else did. The vision. Watson Jr. called for a bold new plan. One family of computers, fully compatible, from the smallest office model to the largest supercomputer. The concept was revolutionary. Different machines, different sizes, different prices, but all speaking the same language. You can start small and upgrade as your needs grew. No rewrites, no forklift replacements. This is the first true computer architecture, a standard that software and hardware can live on for decades. They called it System 360, 360 degrees, a complete circle. But there was a catch. To build it, IBM had to redesign everything. New electronics, new operating systems, new peripherals, new factories. It will require money on a scale never seen in corporate history. The $5 billion gamble. In the 1960s dollars, the project cost over $5 billion. More than NASA spent developing the Apollo moon rockets at the time. People inside IBM were terrified. Senior engineers whispered, if this fails, IBM is done. Executives begged Watson Jr. to scale it down. Others told him to cancel it altogether, but he refused. In a meeting, he famously said, "This is the most important product we will ever build. If we don't do it, someone else will." He knew that IBM had to disrupt itself or risk being disrupted. So he pushed forward against fear, against doubt, against the advice of friends and colleagues. Factories were retooled. Software teams worked night and day. Thousands of engineers coordinated across cities. Delays mounted, budgets exploded, the media predicted disaster. At one point, Watson Jr. was so stressed he had a heart attack, but he kept going. Launch day. On April 7, 1964, IBM unveiled the System 360. 6 models, from small to massive, all compatible, all upgradable. The business world was stunned. Within a month, IBM had more than 1,000 orders, many from customers who haven't even seen a working prototype. They weren't just buying computers, they were buying the future. Within a few years, System 360 became the industry standard. Its architecture lasted for decades, and its descendants still exist today in modern mainframes. It cemented IBM as the king of computing and set the blueprint for computer families used by everyone today, from Apple to Intel to ARM. The legacy. The gamble saved IBM and changed computing forever. Before System 360, computers were isolated, incompatible islands. After 360, computers became a unified ecosystem where software, data, and peripherals could move forward with you. This is the foundation of modern computing, platforms that survived across generations. Watson Jr.'s decision still echoes today. When you upgrade your phone and keep your apps, or when your operating systems run on a different hardware, you're seeing his vision. He proved that the greatest risk isn't failure, it's refusing to evolve. And you know what? I give him a lot of credit for risking basically his whole company in making the System 360. That's a huge gamble. And he knew that he needed to evolve. If not, and he knew if someone didn't do it, if he didn't do it, somebody else was going to do it and put him out of business. Right? And he had the guts, and he had, fortunately he had the money, and he had the, resources. A lot of smart people work at IBM. So he was able to do it. So, man, but what a risk he took, huh? The story of the System 360 is more than just tech. It's about courage. It's about leadership. It's about betting everything on a future only you can see. Watson Jr. once said, if we lose our courage, we lose everything. IBM didn't lose, and the world gained a competing legacy that still shapes every bite we use. Here's another IBM story. This is the story of the IBM BIOS and how it helped give birth to the modern PC revolution. Before the boot, it is the late 70s. Computers are still big, strange, and mysterious. Most live in corporate offices, research labs, or university. A personal computer, something on your desk at home, that's a fantasy. There are only hobbyist machines, Apple II, Commodore PET, the Altair, but big corporations see them as toys, except one, IBM. Big Blue is paying attention. The executives notice small business and home users buying computers by the thousands. And they begin to wonder, what if IBM built something small? What if they entered the personal computer market? But there's a problem. IBM is slow. Decisions take months, sometimes years. They can't compete with the garage companies unless they move fast. So in 1980, IBM forms a secret team in Boca Raton, Florida. Their mission, build an IBM personal computer in just 1 year. They called the little group Project Chest. Their mission day vision will become the most influential computer of all time, the IBM PC. And at the center of that machine, quietly powering everything, is the BIOS. What is BIOS? The BIOS, shortcut for basic input-output system, is the first code your computer runs when you turn it on. Today, we take booting for granted. Power button on, the computer starts. But in 1981, that was magic. The BIOS wakes the machine. It tests memory. It recognizes hardware. It tells the CPU where to find the operating system. Without BIOS, the PC is just pieces of metal and silicon. Think of it as a conductor of an orchestra, making sure every component enters at the right time. IBM didn't invent BIOS, but IBM did something no one expected. They published it. They put BIOS code inside a ROM chip and document how it worked. That decision changed everything. Opened by accident. The IBM PC launches in August 1981. It's modular, fast, and most importantly, it uses off-the-shelf parts. CPU, Intel, operating system, Microsoft, memory, chips, drives, all common. This makes it cheaper and easier to build. But the heart of it all is the IBM BIOS, a protected, copyrighted code that tells all these parts how to work together. Most companies will lock this down. IBM didn't. They didn't open source the BIOS, but they didn't keep it a secret either. Anyone could read the documentation. Anyone can buy the RAM chip. Anyone could try to build something compatible. This is the moment everything changes, because suddenly the PC becomes a platform, not just a product. And the market begins to realize if you can build a BIOS that behaves just like IBM's, you could build a computer that runs IBM software without paying IBM. The race is on. The Clone Wars begins. Dozens of companies try to copy IBM's BIOS. Most of them failed because copying the code directly is illegal. Then comes Compaq. Instead of copying IBM BIOS code, Compaq engineers studied only the public behavior of the BIOS, what it does, not how it's written. Then, in a clean room environment, other engineers, legally insulated, rewrote the BIOS from scratch. This recreated BIOS is IBM compatible, but not IBM copied. It's legal, and it works. Have you ever seen that program, that TV show, Halt But Catch Fire? It mimics what Compaq did. That first season, kind of like, I mean, it's based the story, not the characters themselves, but the story of that year is creating BIOS, IBM compatible version of BIOS. So they took it directly from Compaq. In 1982, Compaq releases the Compaq Portable, the first successful IBM compatible PC. Suddenly, IBM's control over personal computing is gone. Competitors swarm the market. Dell, Gateway, Packard Bell, dozens more. One by one, they license or clone BIOS-compatible systems. Software written for IBM's PC runs on everyone's hardware. The PC ecosystem explodes. Millions of machines made by dozens of companies all speak the same language because of the BIOS. And that's where they went wrong with Microsoft, right? Because Microsoft kept the software. They kind of just leased it to IBM. So when they didn't buy it from IBM. Imagine if IBM had bought the Microsoft software. Every IBM compatible PC that uses that software would have to give money to IBM. But they thought the money was in the hardware. So millions of machines made by dozens of computers all speak the same language because of the BIOS. The fallout and the miracle. IBM expected to own the personal computer industry. Instead, their own openness empowered their competitors. Within a decade, IBM no longer controlled the PC platform. Microsoft and Intel emerged as the powerhouses, Microsoft controlling the operating system and Intel controlling the CPU designs. Even though IBM lost dominance, the world won. Because without IBM BIOS, without its standardization, the personal computer revolution would have been slower, fragmented, fractured. Instead, we got a unified platform that encouraged experimentation, innovation, and the explosion of software. PCs flooded homes, schools, and business. The BIOS helped create a world where millions of people, not just corporations, can use computers. And that world led to the internet, mobile computing, and the information age. For decades, BIOS code lived inside every PC, quietly performing its ritual. Power on, test hardware, boot OS. Today, its successor, UEFI, still carries the BIOS legacy. A tiny piece of firmware, they taught the world how to talk to a computer. Legacy. The IBM BIOS gave us 3 lasting gifts. 1. Standardization. Software can run across machines from multiple vendors. 2. Competition. Clones brought prices down and innovation up. Accessibility. Computers left the lab and entered the living room. It's rare in history that something so small has such a sweeping effect. The BIOS is not glamorous. It's not beautiful code. It's never asked for credit. But every time a computer boosts, you hear its echo. A whisper from 1981. A tiny program with an oversized legacy. The BIOS is easy to overlook. Tiny firmware hidden from view, but its impact is everywhere. It helped launch powerful computing companies, collapse others, and standardize modern computing. All because of one day. IBM shared the little program that helped the world. I'm Professor J. Rod. Thank you for joining me on this multiple stories of IBM on Technology Tap. Until next time, keep learning, keep innovating, and as always, keep tapping into technology. This has been a presentation of Little Cha Cha Productions, art by Sarah, music by Joe Kim. We're now part of the Pod Match Network. You can follow me at TikTok at Professor J Rod, that's J-R-O-D, or you can email me at ProfessorJRod, J-R-O-D, @gmail.com.